welcome to the e-commerce podcast with me, your host, Matt Edmondson. Now, the e-commerce podcast is all about helping you to deliver e-commerce wow. And to help us do just that today, I am going to be talking with Austin Sims from Dayrize about why it's time you knew the environmental impact of your product. But before I jump into this fantastic conversation with Austin, let me suggest a few other e-commerce podcast episodes to listen to that I think you're going to enjoy. Try listening to Will Lawrenson's episode where we talked about what we asked, is customer value optimization the real silver bullet of e-commerce? And also check out my fantastic conversation with Rishi Rawat on how to optimize conversion rates using buyer psychology. Just head over to ecommercepodcast.net. You can get those episodes for free. There's a search feature on there and you can find them no problem. Now, this episode is brought to you by the e-commerce cohort, which helps you to deliver e-commerce wow to your customers. I've been waxing lyrical for the last few weeks about e-commerce cohort and why not. It's brilliant. It's like a mastermind group, a lightweight kind of cohort group that you can join. And it works on the idea of cycles. And what I mean by this is each month you are going to deep dive into a topic related to one of the key areas of e-commerce. So let's take something like marketing, for example. And that month you are going to do a whole thing around digital marketing for your e-commerce business. So it starts off week one is like a coaching session. You just watch you watch this stuff online and you think about your business and you start to create action plans. Week two, there's some quite specific coaching from an expert that comes in, which is brilliant. Week three, you get to do some work. You get to present what's going on. There's live Q&As where you can ask your questions. And week four, oh yes, that's where, if you're up for it, you can post your work, what you're doing, and be held accountable by the group, which, let me tell you, is an amazing thing. It means things get done. So not only do we learn, we get things done. It's important. It's essential. So whether you are just starting out in e-commerce or if, like me, you are a well-established e-commercer, I think, honestly, you should check it out. It is an incredible thing for those of us who are involved in e-commerce. Head over to ecommercecohort.com. You can find more information on the website. That's ecommercecohort.com. Or if you've got any questions, just email me directly and I'll try my level best to answer them at matt@ecommercepodcast.net. So without further ado, here is my fantastic conversation with the brilliant and inspiring Austin Sims. So, welcome to the e-commerce podcast with me, Matt Edmondson. I am with Austin, who is the co-founder of Dayrize. Now, after 20 years spent working in senior positions at major corporations like Nike and Philips and Brooks running, they all seem to be centered around athletics a little bit. Austin has had a desire to use his skills to address this huge issue of climate change. Now, with a strong commercial background, he believed that putting the power in the consumer's hands was important to make real change. And I want to know why, and we're going to get into all of that. Austin recognized that the first thing that consumers needed to make positive change was access to information to make better decisions, which is why he co-founded Dayrize to make impact assessment transparent for business and consumers. Yes, we are going to get into all of that as we ask the question and talk about all stuff to do with environmental impact, e-commerce, your products, the whole nine yards. So Austin, welcome to the show. Great to have you. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no worries. Now, you are, as we were talking before we hit the record button, you're an Aussie living in Amsterdam. How did that happen?
I think my career got me here. I was actually, in your intro, you talked about sports being a bit of a theme. I worked at Nike for quite a long time. I guess it was sort of my learning patch where I learnt most of what I know. And I started out in Australia and then I got transferred to Amsterdam back in 2007 with my wife. And I think we got stuck here, to be honest. I think so. My wife's Australian as well. But I think the lifestyle in Europe is just something that we really enjoyed. So we've got a family now, and we're pretty rooted here. So Australia's still home. It still feels like home when we go back there, but I think we're pretty well ensconced in European lifestyle.
That's really interesting because your parents are English, right? So you kind of, they go to Australia and you've come back to Europe. You've not quite made it all the way back to England yet, though.
Yeah, it's quite funny actually. See, my parents, we did emigrate when I was young. So I was 1 year old when I went to Australia. So I was born in England. Not that I tell many people that, but it's because I'm fully Australian. But yeah, we did make it back to Europe. But my wife actually has Croatian background as well. So both of us have sort of a European bent. And I think growing up in Australia, like Europe was always this magical place. And the fact that we live in Europe after 15 years and can be in Spain or Italy or London in a couple of hours is still, the novelty hasn't worn off. So we still really enjoy that.
That's fascinating. Now, do you actually do that though? Because I mean, I've lived in England a long time and I've traveled most of the world. I've seen a lot of it and it's a beautiful place. But rarely, and people say to me all the time, oh, it's great, where you live because you can jump on a plane, you can be in Paris, you can be in Barcelona, you can be. And I kind of sit there and go, yeah, but I rarely actually do that. I don't know why, but I rarely just go, wow, bugger it, I'm just going to go to Barcelona for the weekend.
I would say we do, certainly not as much as we used to pre-kids. But I think that's always the case, isn't it? That you never sort of appreciate your own backyard. And so when people say that they've been to Australia, to me, most people that have been to Australia have seen far more of Australia than I have, because I've never been to Ayers Rock. I've never been to Broome. I've never been to Darwin. And obviously, but when you travel there, you feel compelled to actually go and visit these things. So I think it's just the nature of if you come from somewhere, you probably don't appreciate it as much. But we're pretty good. As I said, the novelty hasn't worn off. So we generally get somewhere once a month to see something new.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So how did you sort of head down this road then of the environmental cause? Because and maybe this is just something that I have a misinterpretation on, which I'm totally aware of. I would not have associated brands like Nike with being big on environmental change or sustainability side of things. So how did you sort of enter that road?
I think it's probably more life stage for me. So I was actually away on holiday with my co-founder, and how it actually started was we both had kids about the same age, and our kids were playing in the swimming pool, and they were playing on this flotation device. I think it was a unicorn, but this big device, and obviously they were having fun with it. And we got into a big debate about whether that was sustainable or not. Like with this bit of plastic that we just bought, it's probably going to be used for a week. There was a great sense of enjoyment our kids were having, but is it really something that we can consider sustainable? And what are all the different inputs and anomalies that you need to include in that to assess something as sustainable? And after 2 days of debating, I think what we realised was that we didn't know. We had no idea, and we were just debating our separate points of view. And so that really triggered something in us to explore that further. So that started a pretty long journey that got us to where we are today, sort of almost 4 years later. But I think for me personally, it was more, I'd worked in big corporate jobs for quite a while, and I was looking for the next challenge. My kids are young, so they've got 2 Greta Thunbergs at home that constantly remind me what a crappy job we're doing in terms of saving the planet. So it was more just can I use the knowledge that I've had, the connections that I have, and the skill sets that I have to actually turn that to something that's doing good for the planet. Now, I'm not an activist, so I'm learning a lot at the same time, and I've learned a lot over the last 3 years. But we've surrounded ourselves with really intelligent people that understand this space. So that's really helped on my journey. So it's more about a life stage for me. And we're not a charity; we're a for-profit business. Like we really think that business has a really big role to play, and that if you can actually make being more sustainable commercially and a commercial incentive, both for us and the businesses that we work for, that's really going to accelerate change.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you say that actually. About not being an activist, but being a business, and we can do something. I don't know if you come across the Elderman report, which has come out recently, the Elderman Trust report, which is quite an interesting piece of research which has been done. And in that, they interviewed, I want to say around 40,000 people across the globe. There's a lot of people. It's more people than I would talk to. I have to be honest with you. And they surveyed a shed load of people from all kinds of different nations. And what was interesting was 1 in 2 people that they surveyed believe that businesses are not doing enough to address climate change and income inequality. And only 40% of the people thought that the information that businesses put out about these topics was actually trustworthy, which I thought was interesting given our conversation today. But 3 out of 4 people expect CEOs to shape and lead conversation on climate change and wage inequality, right? Some 2 key big issues that keep coming up. And so I find this fascinating that here you are, right, as a guide, lifestyle changer. It's interesting. It all starts off by looking at a unicorn. I'm sure there's all kind of jokes that we could make about how many unicorns have started something quite interesting. But it's interesting to me that here you are using your position in business to shape and drive something like climate change. And this is actually now what the world is expecting more and more. And or at least it is from this report. I don't know if this is your findings as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all just more aware generally, but certainly as the younger generations grow up and become bigger parts of our society and have bigger spending power, that just accelerates it. And I think they're right. I think business does have a leadership role to play in terms of addressing climate change. It needs to. And believe me that every CEO of a big company has sustainability in their top 3 priorities. They know that they need to change. Now, the issue that they've got is how do they do it? Because it's not easy and it's nuanced to do that. So we're certainly seeing the lead from consumers really driving pressure on business, but also investors. I mean, you see a lot of investment companies now, even the big ones, make sure that the reporting of their companies aren't just financial reporting, but it's impact reporting as well. So business is getting pressure from consumers. It's also getting pressure from shareholders and investors and from employees. Like even, as these younger generation hits the workforce, they want to make sure that they're aligning themselves with companies that have shared values with them. And a lot of that is to do with fairness and sustainability. And we define sustainability broadly. It's not just about the environment, it's the social sustainability. So you talk about a fair wage, that's really important for us as well, and we measure that. So definitely there's a growing trend of consumers wanting that and driving that pressure on business. Government's slow to catch up, and government is designed to act slowly. The whole mechanism of government, whether it's a country or whether it's the EU, they're designed to make slow decisions because they have far-reaching consequences. But the government's catching up, and the EU released their latest directive earlier this year that starts to provide that framework for companies that they need to report aggressively and openly about their sustainability. So it's coming, but at the moment it is consumer-led, and I think they're right. I think that businesses aren't doing enough, but they're trying. And I would say that there's definite intent. There's real intent, and we speak to big businesses, large and small. So we've got over 500 businesses that we work with. We work with some of the biggest brands in the world and small companies that make 10 products. And I would say that there's definite intent to get better. Just the big guys have a longer journey to get there. And you would be amazed. I mean, the uniqueness of our technology is that we can measure impact at a product level. So for every individual consumer product, we can isolate what that impact is. And brands just don't know their impact in terms of what the actual impact is. So there's a real role for us to play, and other companies like us, to bring that level of transparency to the brands, because it's only once the brands have that level of transparency that they can bring that forward to consumers as well.
So, I sort of full disclosure, obviously I run my own businesses, and I sit here and I have conversations with my kids about, sustainability and climate change and fast fashion, and I mean all the words come out, and some of them I understand and some of them I don't, and I'm trying to play catch up a little bit. But you talk about there is a real desire. I think, and I agree that there is a real desire amongst people to do things better and right for climate change. The key thing you said was, how do we do that, right? So here I am running, say, a medium-sized e-commerce business, or people are listening to the show, they're running small business, mom and pop businesses, and all that sort of stuff. I think, is this something that actually they can get involved with, or is it do we have to sort of put everything in the hands of the larger corporations like the Nikes and the Philips and the Brooks Running and all that sort of stuff? Or is, I guess, how do we as the smaller guys get involved is probably what I'm asking.
I really think sustainability in 6+ years will be a hygiene factor. I think everything will be regulated and standardized, and it'll be hard to use it as a differentiator. I really think for small and medium-sized business, there's a real opportunity at the moment to use it as a differentiator, particularly against the big guys, because you can change faster and adapt. And I think those brands and companies that can make that change now and really put it at the center of what they do are going to set themselves up for long-term success as a brand. So I think there's absolutely opportunity. What we've done, what we've been very conscious of as we've thought about our business model is how do we make sustainability accessible for everyone? That's from a consumer level and from a business level as well. So we talk all about democratizing sustainability and making it very accessible, because really at the moment, the standard way to actually understand the impact of a consumer product, it's called a life cycle assessment. And what you do with that is you actually map the actual input of all the different materials and ingredients of your product, the manufacturing process, and you actually map it precisely. Now, it takes about 3 or 4 months to do for one single product and costs you about $20,000. So that only enables the big brands to do that. So that's when it is only in the hands of the big brands. What we've done, and it took us 2.5 years to develop, is we've developed a technology that can rapidly approximate that. So if you give us enough data sources about where your product is made, what are the materials that go into it, what's the weight of those materials, where it gets sold, we can actually accurately approximate a life cycle assessment that can fill in those blanks. And so now we take that, what is a 3-month process, and we make it 30 minutes. We take it from £20,000 to $60 per product, or £60 per product. And now all of a sudden, everyone can get access to the same level of information. And the reason why the big brands are working for us is because they don't want to spend $30,000 per product either. They want to get a rapid approximation, which we can provide them. So at £60 a product, that scales for them because they've got tens of thousands of products. And for the small brands that have 5, 10, 15 products, it also becomes affordable for them. So we're really big on making sure that this isn't just for the big guys, that whether it's a smaller e-commerce platform that works with brands and they can work with their brands to get a score, or the brands themselves, this level of transparency. And we're all about transparency. Again, we talk about the consumer demand. What consumers just want is transparency. They just want to know. It's crazy that it's 2022, and when we go shopping for anything, we still don't know the impact of the products. We still can't compare it. I mean, we've had nutritional labeling on the back of product for 20 plus years, and we're all more conscious of sustainability to varying degrees, but it's important to some degree to all, if not most of us. And yet we really don't have the transparency to make better informed decisions. And it's coming, and now we've got a tool that can actually accelerate that for both small, medium, and large businesses.
Well, I want to talk to you about your tool actually, we'll get to that in a minute, but I just want to pick up on this point of transparency and actually this idea of differentiation. So the small mom and pop e-commerce store, the medium e-commerce store, actually you can still use this as a real differentiator. But that has to be more than just saying we're sustainable, right? And we're big fans of sustainability. And I see this a lot on websites, one tree planted for every order and all this sort of stuff. And I think, how do you stop it being gimmicky, and how do you start it being genuine? Do you know what I mean? Rather than just put in some kind of picture of a windmill and, we're environmentally sustainable, sensible people, to actually being something that is genuine and believable. Because this was one of the things that came out in that report. People write this stuff on the website, but most people don't believe it. And so how do we create that genuine sort of information? How do we help our customers sort of see that we really are genuine people?
Yeah, I think it's around action, isn't it? So transparency is a big word for us. So we're independent from the brands. So in terms of credibility, we do an independent verification of the brand. So it's not the actual brands rating themselves. I think that's the issue with a lot of sustainability claims. They're self-claims. So it's either the company saying that we're sustainable, or the product is positioned as sustainable. We actually independently verify that. So there's no upside to us in terms of how sustainable that product is. So it's independently verified. the rigor that we go through is quite quite deep, and we'll talk about the technology in a bit, I'm sure. But rather than just saying you're sustainable, you need to prove it. And if you've got a website that actually enables consumers for the first time to really understand the impact between two products that they're comparing and compare that on sustainability. Now, they may choose the product that's not as sustainable as the other one because there's lots of different factors that come into any purchase decision. The color, the size, the accessibility, whatever it is. But I think consumers just want that level of transparency, and I think we have a tool that makes that fast and easy to access for companies. And when you can actually integrate that into your website, you're not saying you're sustainable. What you're doing is you're providing consumers the chance to make informed decisions about the sustainability of products that you have on your website. And then by definition, you become sustainable. So you don't need to say that you're sustainable, but if you're all of a sudden introducing a tool that easily enables consumers to compare the products that you have, that really starts to position yourself as quite credible in that space.
Okay. So, listen, we are going to get into this a whole bunch more. Don't go anywhere as we just take a moment to hear from this week's show sponsors, and I'll be back with Austin in just a few short seconds.
Hey there, are you a business owner? Here at Orion Digital, we know firsthand that running an e-commerce business can be really hard work. As the online space gets more competitive, it is becoming even more challenging to stay ahead of the curve. We totally get it. So we want to help you succeed by offering a wide range of services, from fulfillment, marketing, customer service, and even coaching and consulting, just so that you can do what matters most. Save yourself the time and the money and let us handle the day-to-day tasks. This way, you can run your business without having to worry about the boring stuff. So what do you say? Are we a good fit for each other? Come check us out at oriondigital.com and let us know what you think.
So, Austin, transparency is a word that you've mentioned a fair bit. And again, I just want to dig into this because what I don't want transparency just to be one of those core company values that people have, and it doesn't really mean anything. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those sort of buzz business words. Now, I worked for several years on the board of a PLC here in the UK that was a fair trade organisation. And transparency was one of those big key things. It's like, how can we trace this product all the way back to its birth, and all the different people that have handled it along the way, and how were they paid, and how was it made, and what were the ingredients used, and so on and so forth. And the more transparent that we could make that cycle, or the more we recorded that information, the easier it was to say, yes, this is a fair traded product, because as you know, fair trade stamped on a product doesn't always mean fair trade. There's degrees of fair tradeness, shall we say. There are some which sort of get through by the skin of their teeth, and there are some which are sort of, full on fair trade. But it's the same mark, right? And there was no differentiator in that sort of level of transparent. It's the wrong phrase. There was no differentiator. You were fair trade or you weren't, and it became very digital. Whereas my experience here is actually it's quite analog. And I'm going to assume that for most of us running sort of websites, we're going to be analog, aren't we? We're going to be somewhere on a sort of a scale of environmentalness. Is that a word? I don't know. But do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. So how do we, what sort of things can we do to, as well as obviously using your system, getting our products rated, but what are some of the other things that we should think about that get us further on that scale, not just because we've got a mark, but because actually it's good for humanity to do so?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about eco-labels. And I think eco-labels served a real purpose a couple of years ago, but now with over 500 eco-labels on the market, it starts to add to the confusion rather than provide clarity. And the issue with eco-labels, aside from the fact that there's too many, is exactly what you said. They're binary. You either are or you aren't. You are either fair trade or you're not. And as you say, within that fair trade, there's a scale. So just to touch on what's different about our product quickly is we provide that. So we actually score the products out of 100. So you're not a Dayrize or you're not. You actually, over 5 dimensions of sustainability, which are really rigorous. We rate you on each of those 5, and you get a score out of 100 for each of those 5, and then you get an overall score out of 100. So what that does is remove that issue that you talked about there, which is that degrees of which you are fair trade, and do you just get in or do you not get in? Well, you can compare products. One's an 81 and one's a 62, or one's an 85 and a 78.
Yeah.
Like, you can actually now bring that level of granularity to really understand it, and then you can go into as much detail as you want. And that's the thing with this that we've found is, I think everyone's, again, interested in sustainability to some level. How much you are into that, I think, is dependent on the individual. But we have a tool that enables you just at a top line to compare scores and be happy with that score, or you can really dive into the detail and understand, well, why did it get that score? How did it get that score? What's that score made up of? So it depends on the level of granularity that you want. But I think that's a real unlock for consumers when we talked about transparency, is it's not just a fair trade logo. It's actually a really rigorous number that they get, that they can actually compare products with and start to make these better decisions.
Well, it makes them better. So what are these sort of 5 dimensions then that you score products on?
Yeah, so we're a B2B company. So we work directly with brands. We do that either directly with the brands themselves or via retailers and e-commerce platforms. So we work with a number of small and large retailers that connect us with the brands. We need the information from the brands to score the product. So we work with the brands. There's a certain amount of information that we need to get, and we've got a tool that does that. And then our technology works in 2 ways. The first way is, I touched on it a moment ago, is no brand has all the information. We capture about 120 different data points about a particular product. So it's all done at a product level. So for each individual product, you have to fill out a survey. No brand, and we work with some of the biggest brands in the world. I won't call them out on this podcast. And small brands. No brand has all the information. And you'll be surprised how much limited information some brands have. Big brands that you would expect to know more. And it can be quite discomforting sometimes. So the first way that our technology works is, okay, you're missing this information, but we know, because you've given us this information, we can pretty accurately approximate what this is. So we've got 31 different databases that we call upon. We've got machine learning that then goes, okay, based on the information that you're missing, but the information that we have, what's the right data set for us to call upon? So the first thing we do is actually fill in all the blanks. So that gives us a complete picture of the product. So that's the first way it works. The second way it works is then we pass that information through our 5 dimensions of sustainability. And then out of that, you get a really detailed report across those 5 dimensions about what you're doing well and what you're not doing well and your impacts. And then there's a more simplified version of that report that's a consumer widget that then goes onto your website. We're actually working with some retailers now to put that report in store via QR codes, but there's a simplified version that goes to consumers. And the 5 dimensions that we measure across are really important to us, because it's important that you get a really holistic view of the product, because we talk a lot about carbon and net zero, and that's great that we talk about that. But carbon's only one measure of sustainability, and that's what makes it so complex. It's multifaceted. So the 5 dimensions we look at are climate impact, which is carbon, right? So we look at how much carbon does this product use to source the materials, to manufacture it, and to distribute it to the end consumer. We need to be able to give you a really accurate view of that product. We look at the ecosystem impact. So how does it affect the wildlife around it? How does it affect the biodiversity? How much water does it use to actually create this product, which is super important. And then we look at the circularity of the product. So from the input of the materials to make the product, so how much of those are reused and recycled, but also at the end of life of the product, how much of it can be reused. So you get a real sense of how circular it is in contributing to the circular economy. They're the environmental factors that we look at. And we said it at the front, we also look at the social factors as well, so fair pay. So we look at the livelihoods and the well-being of the people that actually create the product. So how are people treated through the workforce? Is it fair pay? Is there gender equality? Is there worker protection? To make sure that the people who are making the product are also protected. And the last thing we look at is the purpose of the product, because you can make a really sustainable product, but if it's got a low purpose, it's still using up a lot of the Earth's resources in a way that they could probably better deployed. So we look at, is it really something that's purposeful for human needs? And for that, we use an extended version of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So we assess each of those. They're all scored out of 100. They all contribute 20% to an overall score. And what that does, again, is 2 things. You get really detailed reports that brand manufacturers can use to actually assess their product to make better products. But there's a really engaging consumer output piece that then, for the first time, enables consumers to understand that impact and make quick comparisons between products to make better decisions.
Wow. So it's quite, when you say, how did you come up with those sort of 5 things then? Because that is quite thorough. It is quite holistic. It's not focusing in on one thing. Has this sort of been a process of trial and error for you guys?
Yeah, So I think I said at the outset, I'm not a sustainability expert. One of my co-founders was, and we found others. We ended up with 4 co-founders, and two of them are sustainability experts. And then we got 20 of the world's, or certainly Europe's best sustainability experts and ecologists to actually build it. So they worked on it for 2.5 years to develop it. But we also have a really rigorous testing program. So we actually send out the methodology to leading academics and NGOs and get them to critique it. So there's certain NGOs that are experts in circularity. So we got them to input into it. Some are expert on greenhouse gases. So it was a really robust process that took us 2.5 years to develop, and we continue to refine it. So each year we update it because sustainability science doesn't stand still. It continually improves. But there's we recently got audited by SGS, which is the sort of global standard for auditing, and they verified that we're the fastest, most holistic and accurate way to measure impact at a product level. So that's a good place for us to be, but we want to continue to get better. So we're constantly relooking at the methodology, taking feedback from partners and also NGOs and lending academics to make sure that it's as rigorous as it can be.
Wow. I mean, how you've done it, but I've no idea. I take my hat off to you for actually doing it, because I personally wouldn't know where to start with something like that. And here you are, you've got a sort of full-on blown product that took 2.5 years to get together. And I noticed actually you put on LinkedIn earlier that tonight you're headed to the NBCC Awards, which this is something that I didn't even know existed. It's the Netherlands British Chamber of Commerce. Which has been around, apparently, since 1891. And the awards in Amsterdam, where you guys have been nominated for 2022 Technological Innovation Award, alongside companies, and this tickled me, Van Moof, the bike, the Coca-Cola company, the Heineken company, Tesco, Unilever. I mean, there are some big names that you've been named amongst to get this sort of tech award. And I'm assuming this is related to this algorithm, machine learning, whatever it is you've got working across these sort of 5 areas, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a nice feather in our cap, to be honest, to be sort of mentioned in the same awards ceremony as those guys. But what we've built is really hard. Like, it's not easy. It's a really difficult piece of technology. Honestly, we thought it would take us 6 months to build. That's what we told our investors. And it's just so complex that it just got bigger and bigger on us, and we decided to go all in rather than take shortcuts. So, and I think that gets recognised by the size of the brands that we're working with, and we're working with a lot of those brands that you mentioned in terms of scoring their products. But also at innovation, we were in London at the Retail Technology Show maybe 4 weeks ago, and we won Best Innovation at the whole show. So we're seeing that level of recognition, not just from the partners that we work with, but also sort of industry. And that's great. That's great for the team to see that, because, we're a purpose-driven company. Even though we are for profit, we do believe that we have a role to help us all make better decisions, both business and consumers. So for us to be at this award ceremony with these guys is it's a bit of a thrill, to be honest. So I'm wearing black tie tonight. I think it's been a while since I've been invited to a black tie event, so I might have to get my wedding suit from about 20 years ago.
Just breathe in when you wear it. Just breathe in. That's what I have to do. It's just, there it is. You are quoted as saying, climate doomism is an easy out and leads to climate inaction. What is climate doomism, and why is it an easy way out? And this is something that you put on LinkedIn with an article from the BBC. I just refresh you where you actually said this.
Yeah, this is the big one for me, because I think sustainability is an overused and misused term. And I think it's sort of become quite opaque in terms of what something is that is sustainable. And I think the context around sustainability is so negative, and so makes it's so guilt-led in terms of making us all feel guilty about what we're doing or what we're not doing. And guilt isn't a positive emotion. It doesn't lead to positive consumer action. And so what we're trying to do is lean into solutions rather than talking about the problem. We all know the problem. And aside from a few of us, I think we all can accept that climate change is real and it's not coming, it's here now. And we all have a role to do. As much as we point the finger at business, we all have a role to do. And we're a solutions-based business. So we deliberately don't point the finger at organisations that are or not doing well. What our job is to do is to partner with them and help them get better. So whether it's not pointing the finger at businesses as being a bit solution, or for consumers, giving them an easy step to become more sustainable. That's what we're all about. How do we provide a path for both consumers and business? Because we do expect consumers and business to get better, but unless we give them the tools, and again, it comes back to that word transparency, unless we can help businesses really understand the impact of their products, it's hard for us to expect them to change. And same for consumers. We constantly, even in the report that you mentioned previously, consumers want to make better decisions, but how can you? I mean, how do you possibly make a good decision about what product to buy if you don't have the right information? So what we're trying to do is just, rather than talk about sustainability and talk about the issues, shift the conversation to what can we actually do and be much more about solutions for both consumers and business.
That's really good, because like you say, it's easy. The whole doomism thing is very much, I can't do anything, the problem's so big, makes no odds. How is your, I'm curious to know how, since doing all of this, right, and getting much more involved, because you it sounds like you started out like someone like me. You had an interest in it, but you weren't an activist and you weren't an expert. How has your own personal consumer behavior changed in the last few years as Dayrises risen, I suppose? Do you know what I mean? As it's grown and you've understood these things more and more. What are some of the big changes you've noticed in your own buying behavior?
It certainly makes you more conscious. I think the hardest thing that I find to give up is travel. We talked about that already. So my footprint is pretty big, or bigger than I'd like it to be, in full transparency when it comes to travel. But that's something that I'm really passionate about. I think your shopping habits change in terms of how much you order. Just knowing that when you know that a pair of jeans takes 20,000 litres to make, you can't unknow it once you know it. It's really difficult. So fashion is a big one, which we know it's a hot button and it's an easy one to point the finger at. But I think I've probably gone back by a third in terms of the amount of clothes that I buy, just knowing what the impact is. And again, not a judgment call on the industry or people that buy fashion. It's just a reality that it's a really proportionate to how much people actually spend on fashion and the impact of it. It's a real hot button. And then the same for food, to be honest. I probably changed my diet a bit too. So I've cut down a lot on meat in terms of my consumption. And again, once you know the sort of overall impact of it. So, and again, I'm not one to preach, because I think we all have our own path. Again, what our company is all about is just giving you the tools. So we won't tell you what to buy and not what to buy. We'll just tell you what the impact of the products are, and then you can make your own decision. But the good thing is once you know, you can't unknow, and not in a bad way. It just it slips into your consciousness, and then you will naturally start to make better decisions.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. One of the companies that I have the privilege of being involved with is a supplement company, and specifically aimed at the vegan and vegetarian market. And so I've come to understand the market much better in recent years. And it's interesting how 20 years ago, when you look at why people became vegans, it was because, we just don't like the whole cruelty to animal things. That's why we don't do we have vegans and vegetarians. It's all because of the animals. What has changed, it seems to me, over the last 20 years is actually that's really important still as an issue for a lot of people, but there are bigger issues now in people's minds. And it is tied in with actually personally being more healthy, but also the health of the planet. And so and it's interesting hearing you talk about eating less meat as a deliberate choice to create a healthier planet. And this is what we're seeing more and more now, that actually sustainable issues like the health of the planet are driving individual consumer behavior in ways that we just didn't predict 5 or 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good example too. Like, it goes back to that sort of climate doomsday, or it's all or nothing. Like, no one expects everyone to go vegetarian overnight or become vegan. And that's not what it's about. It's about just making more informed choices. And you may continue to eat meat as much as you are at the moment once you know the impact of it, or you may not. But I think it's about making those simple choices to do a little bit better each time you do something. And we talk a lot about people becoming paralyzed, because as soon as you talk about people becoming vegan, people go, "Oh, that's not for me. I couldn't do it." And that may be true, but maybe you don't need to become vegan. But maybe it's just 3 days a week that you don't eat meat, and you start to make those different choices. So, but you're right. I think veganism is a good one because, as you say, it was mostly about animal cruelty sort of 5 years ago. I think if you did a poll, this is me sort of guessing, I think a lot more people these days would say they've done it because of the environmental concerns.
Well, it's now the second biggest reason that people become vegans. And animal cruelty is third in the research that we've got. And there may be some research that contradicts me. I can only go on what I know.
Yeah, sure. But that sounds about right, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I have to be honest with you, it's a really interesting one, isn't it? And the different types of food that we eat and the different clothes that we wear, we're starting to become much more aware that actually all of a sudden this has an impact. A cheap T-shirt in the store here, something's not right further down the supply chain for that to happen. And we're starting to wake up to that fact and ask questions, go, hang on a minute, how is this so cheap? And what does that actually mean in reality? I'm not necessarily saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's time that we ask those kind of questions. And I think bringing this back to e-commerce, as business owners, we need to understand that this actually is driving consumer behavior more and more and more and more. Can I tell you about a really big cock-up that we did? Maybe that would help illustrate this process. So we introduced onto our website, on the supplement website, a feature called Subscribe and Save, because we wanted to reward our most loyal customers, the customers that keep coming back. And the subscription model is a great business model. And was like, what we didn't do when we launched this business model was make it easy for the consumer to choose how much they wanted to be shipped on the Subscribe and Save. It was almost like it was prescriptive. It's like, no, this is what you can have, and you can have it every 60 days, like an Olympic kind of a thing. And the amount of customers that got in touch with us and said, hang on a minute, I want to ship less, not more, right? I like being able to save money. I don't mind subscribing. I just don't want it every month. I want 6 months worth of stuff every 6 months, right? And so this was a major piece of learning for us that, we should have thought this through a whole lot better than we did. And it was thanks to our consumers getting in touch with us, our customers going, hang on, we're not satisfied. There was almost like a little bit of a revolt going on because we'd made it more difficult to be sustainable from their point of view. And so I think as e-commerce entrepreneurs, we have to be aware of these issues, don't we? We have to be aware for our own businesses that people do care, and we therefore need to care as well and make it easy for people to make solid, informed choices and make it easy for people to feel like they're doing a good thing.
Yeah, and what I would say is consumers are forgiving. They're not expecting us all to be perfect. They don't expect us to go from 0 to 100, much as our own behavior won't get there. But what they want is, and I think your example then illustrates this, they want choice. They want transparency. So they don't necessarily expect all your products on your e-commerce platform to be perfect. But if you give them the tools that they can actually understand it, they feel empowered. They feel like you're adding value for them. So I wouldn't say this is not just for sustainable websites. This is for any website that sells products, and just another dimension that you can provide value to your customers. If you're the only one, if your website sells something that a lot of other websites do, but you're the only one that's actually giving the consumer the information about the sustainability, that's a real point of difference for you, that you can actually talk to consumers, and we know consumers value it. And we know also it's only one dimension that they're looking at. They're looking at a whole host of things, but it's a real value add that can help you differentiate yourself to your consumers.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. Listen, Austin, it's been great having you on the show. You have done something which, I have to be honest with you, I remember sitting in the boardroom 5 years ago on the PLC saying, we need a fair trade index. We need to be able to score everybody's product, not just ours, but everybody's, Mars, everybody. I wanted to give them a fair trade number so we understood what it actually meant rather than just a fair trade symbol. I wanted a number, and we couldn't figure out how to make it work, but you have done that, and that's remarkable. And so thank you for doing that. I'm stoked, man. And it's great to have you on here and tell the good folks listening to the e-commerce podcast all about Dayrize. So how do they find out more? How do they reach out to you? How do they connect with you?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So we've got our website, which is dayrize.io, and that's Dayrize with a Z. Or feel free to contact me directly at austin@dayrize.com.
That's awesome. And we will, of course, put Austin's website links and emails and LinkedIn profile in the show notes. You can reach out to him and connect with him, but I'm sure he'd love to hear from you and give you some wonderful help and advice on how to get started. But Austin, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's been a real pleasure.
Matt, thank you. Really enjoyed it.
So there you have it. What a fantastic conversation. Huge thanks again to Austin for joining me. Very inspirational, very doable, right? So thanks again, Austin. Brilliant. And also let me give a big shout out to today's show sponsor, the eCommerce Cohort. Do head over to ecommercecohort.com for more information about this new type of mastermind for e-commerce that you can and should join. Now, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast from, because, well, you know the answer. We've got some great conversations lined up, and I don't want you to miss any of them. And just in case no one has told you today, let me be the first person to do it. You, my friend, are awesome. Utterly, utterly awesome. The eCommerce podcast is produced by Orion Media. You can find our entire archive of episodes on your favorite podcast app. The team that makes this show possible is Sadaf Bainon, Josh Catchpole, Estella Robin, and Tim Johnson. Our theme song has been written by me. It was produced and magicified and all that kind of good stuff by Josh Edmondson, who happens to be my son, and we quite like it. Hope you like it too. If you would like to read today's transcript or show notes, head over to the website ecommercepodcast.net, where you can also sign up for our newsletter, which you should do. Let's be real. That's it from me. Thanks for joining me. Have a fantastic week. See you next time. Bye for now.